not entirely sure if we're going to actually have time for questions at this point, but anything that it's unanswered, we promise to actually get back to you in writing and then share somehow either through the listservs or with direct emailing, depending on what kind of questions you ask. And to the best of our ability, we're going to make sure that we answer them. As you have seen, we have a very full agenda today. And this is just for you to have a sense of how the 1 hour that we're going to be spending together is going to go through. And without further ado, I just want to start with the next slide and give you a few things. We thought that it was very important for us to say a few things about the NCC restructuring. And there are a number of ongoing activities that we have been engaged with in the past year or so. And just to give a little bit of a recap, you remember that the NCC was under an external review that was requested by the Japan-US Friendship Commission. And it was not only the NCC who was externally reviewed. All the organizations that are funded by the Japan-US Friendship Commission also had to go through this. But with that, they published a report, and under those, in that report, there are a number of recommendations. And the highlights of those recommendations were that NCC really needed to become financially self-sufficient. And also there was the advice to incorporate and establish a board with fiduciary duties, because we currently don't have a board with fiduciary duties. All the decisions that are, including the financial ones, are done with the current NCC council and sometimes within the NCC executive committee level. In any case, following those recommendations, there were two task forces that were established, the membership task force and the fundraising task force, and they actually provided us with a very specific set of recommendations and a very thorough report. And I think that now these two task forces have been asked to now work on the next steps of what the original work was. So the charges have been renewed, and we have here today Dr. Jack Stoneman, who is the chair of the membership task force, and he's going to give us a few status updates of the work that has been going with the membership task force. And then I'm going to just present the items of the charge for the fundraising task force, because Steve was not able to actually be here today. And you also remember that we had a number of community consultations. So there were open houses that we wanted to hear the feedback about people. And I'm pretty sure that there are still many questions, because I think that the concept of membership, for instance, was something that it was very alien to many of us, and many people got confused about it. But I think that the work that this membership task force is going to pursue from this point on is going to be able to kind of clarify those with many of the recommendations for further restructuring. Now, we have also, in addition to that, have been engaged with conversations with external organizations. An example is potential affiliation with external organizations like the CEAL. So we had meetings with their representatives. We also had meetings with groups that are very similar in nature with the NCC, such as the GNARP, the German North American Partnership Group, that is affiliated with CEAL. And in relation to the incorporation and establishment of a board with fiduciary duties, we seek advice from Trevor Dawes, who is a Japan-US Friendship Commissioner, and he also has a library background. And he was able to give us some very good insight about what would be an appropriate size, as well as composition of a board for an organization like the NCC. And of course, any of the changes that we're going to be proposing from this point on, we are going to obviously include everybody and then receive feedback prior to actually moving forward with them. So stay tuned, and we're going to go back to you to actually ask your cooperation to get feedback in order for us to move forward with those actions. So the next thing that we have in our agenda, I just wanted to quickly mention some of the membership changes. Obviously, I started my term in January this year, and so did Tsuyoshi Harada, who kindly agreed to become the chair for the Resource Sharing Committee, which was formerly known as the ILLDD Committee of the NCC. Both our terms are a 3-year term, and it goes until December 31st, 2024. In terms of working groups and task forces, we are very happy to welcome Rebecca Mendelsohn from the University of Pennsylvania. She's the newest a member of the Library and Professional Development Working Group, just joined in October 2021, and is going to have a very important role in helping us identify topics and content for the next generation workshop, which we're also going to be talking a little bit about later in Tara's updates. Rebecca has also gratefully agreed to be part of the university, the fundraising task force, and she's going to be working with Steve and a few other, and Dennis Frost and a couple of others from February 22 until, I guess, the end of June, which is our aimed goal. Matthew Hayes has also joined the membership task force, and we had our first meeting the other day, and Jack is going to provide a little bit of an update on that. And Mindy Landek, who is a faculty member from Austin College, has also joined the membership task force. All right. So now I think that I'm going to invite Jack, who is here today, and I think that he has a few slides to share, and he's going to give us a little bit of an update on the membership task force with the renewed charge. Jack, take it away.
Okay, let me share my screen here. Is everybody able to see my PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Not yet, for some reason.
Oh, there it is. There it is. We can see it now.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you, Fabiano. I wanted to just, let's see, I'm actually on the last slide instead of the first slide. Here's the first slide. And Fabiano has already introduced the members of the task force. Me and Mindy Landek and Matthew Hayes, and ex officio members are Fabiano and Tara McGowan. Just as a review, I have a little bit of text from the membership task force charge letter that we received. Beginning in September 2020, the task force was asked to review all opportunities and obstacles of broadening or altering the definition of NCC membership. And based on the review, the task force made a few recommendations to the NCC Council on how to proceed. These included recommending a path forward concerning membership versus non-membership, and the task force recommended that we define membership, which is something that hadn't been done in the past. Detailed definitions of recommended membership types and or levels, the ideal structures of membership for NCC, benefits of membership and its rules and regulations, and we were asked to recommended identifying potential instruments or procedures for determining and soliciting membership, and suggestions for communicating any membership revisions to the broader NCC and Japan Studies community. The task force put together a report, and this was presented last February at the to the council, and then at the open annual meeting in March. It underwent consideration by the larger Japan Studies community through a series of informational meetings from April to June. Those meetings indicated that there was still considerable confusion about what membership means or could mean, and who would get what voting rights. At the same time, NCC was undergoing a review by the JUSFC, which Fabiano has already mentioned, with this new recommendation to have a fiduciary board and incorporate this the already complicated issue of membership. In December of 2020, or was it 2021? I don't remember. The NCC Council voted to create this board and change the bylaws to accommodate that. So the responsibilities going forward for this second iteration of the membership task force is to create detailed definitions of the recommended membership types and or levels, and along with that, detailed voting rights for each level of membership and the benefits of membership and its rules and regulations, so that all members of the Japan Studies community, the NCC community, are clear on what membership means, what kind of benefits members will receive, and what kind of regulations, but also responsibilities members will have going forward. The membership task force met for the first time last week. It was a very productive meeting. We had a lot of discussion, and we realized how much work we have going forward to try to define very carefully what membership means and what the different kinds of membership could be. Just as a snippet of our discussion, I have here membership types under consideration. These are the levels of membership that we discussed. A general member. The next level would be a committee, subcommittee. That's not CUB committee. I have CUB committee on there, but it's subcommittee or task force members. And the next level would be board member, which is currently the council members, which, 13 to 19 people on the council. And then the next level would be officers, which would comprise who are currently our executive committee and our executive director. And the next level would be the fiduciary board, who the fiduciary board would have financial oversight and vetting and hiring of staff. None of these terms are set in stone yet, and we are still grappling with the best terminology for all of these levels. But the next step from here, once we determine the different kinds of levels of membership and determine the terminology for all of these, then we will start drafting bylaw revisions. And those bylaw revisions will go to the board, well, currently the council, to decide upon. And once those bylaws are revised, then we will be able to extend certain kinds of voting rights to the different levels, including general members. And that's all I have. Let me quickly, though, in the chat, I'm going to put a link in the chat to Tokiko's wonderful summary of the membership task force work in the first iteration last year. If you would like more background on this issue and what's been discussed so far, her video, it's about 9 or 10 minutes. It's a very good overview.
Thank you very much, Jack, for presenting this. And like you said, that there's the work is cut out for us. I think that there's a lot to do and accomplish in the next few months, but I just wanted to reiterate my sincere gratitude for you just stepping up and taking on the renewed charge of this task force. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then the next one, I think if there are any burning questions regarding the membership, you're welcome to put it on the chat, and then we're going to kind of monitor the time. And then if we have sufficient time, then it's going to be a good opportunity for us to do within this session. If we go over time, we promise to get back to you at a later date in writing. Let me share my screen again. My PowerPoint here. All right, so in terms of membership, fundraising task force. Okay, so unfortunately, Steve Wheat, who is the task force, fundraising task force chair, had an unexpected family emergency, and he wasn't able to be here today. He sends his regrets, but he did. What we did is basically try to get the points that are available in the renewed charge for the fundraising task force. I think that one of the things that it is good to point out is in the former work of the fundraising task force, they also try to find out whether a paid membership model would be something that would be sustainable for NCC. And I think that the agreement was that dues from membership alone wouldn't be sufficient and the right path for NCC, at least at this point. So with the Renew Fundraising Task Force, the responsibilities that the task force is going to have is to work with the executive director to reach out to specific funders and organizations that they have already identified in the report in order to find a more sustainable solution going forward. review NCC operational expenses and recommend to what to cut or add, and begin compiling lists of potential board members that goes hand in hand with the need of actually establishing a fiduciary board. So things are very intertwined, and I think that a lot will depend on what kind of final recommendations come from the membership task force as well. But these are at least the main things that I think that the task force is going to keep in mind when resuming the work that they are asked and tasked to do. And the membership, as I mentioned, is Steve Wheat. He also chaired the previous fundraising task force, and he agreed to stay on for the renewed charge. And then we have Dennis Frost, who is our executive committee member as well, and our faculty representative. And Rebecca Mendelson, who's also new to the field, but also gracefully agreed to actually be on the task force. And Tara and I will sit as ex officio. All right, so the next, I think that it's something to celebrate, and I think that many of you have already seen the announcement of this dashboard in the poster session for those of you who attended yesterday. But I would like to, first of all, congratulate Anne-Marie, Kathy, and Yukari for the excellent work that they have done. And they are also going to maybe introduce us the notable Japanese collections in North America dashboard that they have worked on, and it's a great success project of the DRC committee. So I'm going to invite Yukari and Anne-Marie and Kathy to present. Take it away.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you hear me okay? And you can see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Yukari Sugiyama. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Digital Resources Committee. Today, we'd like to introduce you a dashboard a subgroup of the DRC had worked on for the past year. The membership of the subgroup includes myself, Mary Davis, and Katherine Matsuura. We recorded our presentation in advance, so I'm gonna play it now. The video is included in our project page for you to watch anytime. You can find our page, this page, under committees and working groups, right here. The video is about 5.5 minutes long. Meanwhile, please feel free to post questions in the chat. We will try to do a live Q&A afterwards. So here we go.
With this presentation, we are thrilled to share news about an exciting digital project that we initiated roughly 1 year ago and that went public last month. The 3 contributors on this project, myself, Anne-Marie Davis, Katherine Matsuura, and Yukari Sugiyama, are members of a subgroup of the Digital Resources Committee, or DRC, of the North American Coordinating Council on Japanese Library Resources, known as NCC. Our primary goal with this project was to develop an online tool for an interactive dashboard that identifies, maps, and helps to promote notable Japanese studies collections at the various research libraries and museums in North America. Upon creating this dashboard, we began populating it with data that our colleagues in the NCC Cooperative Collection Development Working Group, or CCDWG, started gathering in 2017. We thus contacted the CCDWG early into the project and continue to actively partner with them. Through our collaboration, we aim to provide a public database that helps librarians and scholars identify relevant materials for research and teaching. Now that we've launched the site, we hope that its visual and interactive format will inspire our colleagues to submit more information about their notable collections. Let's have a closer look now at the dashboard as it currently appears online.
I'm going to show you what the dashboard looks like and how it works. This is the home page. It provides a map that charts Japanese collections in North America and allows you to locate institutional holdings easily. When your mouse hovers over a red marker, you will see a corresponding institution name, physical address, and related collections. Currently, due to the limits of the Google Data Studio platform, this page only works on computers, but not mobile devices. Collection Overview provides a quick overview of the various library collections covered in this database. We have 122 collections now. Now you can filter the data visualization by language, digital access, format, and time period. Like this. To clear all filters, please use the reset button in the header. If you'd like to learn more about each collection, go to Browse Collections. You can find information like collection name, holding institution, format, language, time period, digital access, description, and the related websites. You can filter the collection by keyword search, as well as facets. Again, use the reset button to clear all filters. Directory provides contact information for holding institutions. If you want to learn about our project, go to the About page. And finally, and most importantly, if you'd like to nominate your collections or request division of your existing collections, please use this button to access our submission form.
The dashboard is built on Google Data Studio, a free online tool, and like any free tool, there are inherent limitations with what the platform can do. For example, the notable Japanese collections cannot be a digital portal to each and every collection. It is an interactive visualization of our collections and provides a pathway to those materials that did not exist until now. Knowing there could be a potential mismatch with user expectation, a lot of thought was given to the map, which is located front and center on the homepage. Unfortunately, because the platform only allows for one link per callout location, we opted to remove this link entirely and instead created a list that showcases the comprehensive nature of our holdings. In that sense, starting with the homepage, we tried to address and shape the user's expectations. Perhaps the main challenge we could not completely resolve is with the filters. Based on platform limitations, the filter categories must be ordered by alphabet or data size. This prevented us from displaying time periods in the correct order, but all in all, I hope you will agree this is a small concern. If we have overlooked other issues, please know that we welcome feedback and suggestions for improvement. In many ways, today marks one of our first steps in promoting the Notable Japanese Collections dashboard. Part of our outreach going forward is to let librarians know that they can add and update information about their own library holdings through a recently revised data collection survey that lives both on the NCC website as well as the project dashboard. Our plans for data collection also extend to active outreach with smaller library collections and those without an East Asian librarian presence. Ideally, we may also want to enlarge the scope to include museums and other types of Japan-focused collections. But the first step towards achieving this goal is to monitor use through Google Analytics, as well as engage in future discussions with our NCC colleagues. Ultimately, this project is like any library collection. It is never finished and will always grow. In that sense, we are ready to share this project with everyone, starting now. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for the presentation. Now it's time for Q&A. If you have any questions, please post it in the chat now, or you can simply speak up.
So while we're waiting for questions, maybe, oh, was there somebody who wanted to say something?
I did have a comment.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yesterday, we had the wonderful question posed to us during the poster session from Sharon Domeyer about how we define notable collections in Japanese or Japan notable collections. And so we wanted to address that. We're in the process of trying to define that, and we want to put that definition front and center in the dashboard. But for now, we thought we'd share it with you. We want to define notable collections very broadly as distinctive or rare archival or special collections. For example, even very small sets of archival papers, manuscripts, or ephemera, or even one rare or distinctive item that very few other institutions hold. In addition, notable collections can include any large-scale named or unnamed collection of books, serials, music, art, even special data sets and institutional digital exhibits, and so on. One last thing, we wanted to also define the descriptor Japanese studies very broadly, as collections about Japan, made in Japan, or written or recorded in the Japanese vernacular. So I hope we can clear that up. And if anyone is hesitating, they think that their collections are too small, we disagree. And we really want to encourage people to submit information about their materials and do this in the interest of increasing discoverability of our materials worldwide.
I think we got a question from Adam. Yeah, he's curious if we got any submission yet, and also if we have had if we did have people leaving any information that you hoped they would include. I think most of the submissions, we received about 20 submissions after the official launch. And I think most of the information look good, and we actually received several correction requests as well. So if you want to change the wordings, we also happy to edit your entries.
Yes, I think that the comment that I was about to make before is that University of Toronto, we have some Japanese Canadian archival collections that I would like to actually submit, but I've been delinquent. And you can understand maybe why I've been delinquent in preparation for this. But as soon as this is all over, I'll try to get my shit together and then submit submit my responses too. And I would like to encourage other people, especially liberal arts colleges and interesting collections that are everywhere, to become more visible. So do submit your responses to the group. And I would like to thank again your excellent work.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any other questions in the chat?
Just for your information, the dashboard has been visited by over 200 people from 14 countries so far.
Wonderful. All right, so if there are no further questions, and I think that if there are other questions, people are also welcome to contact any of the 3 members who are working on the dashboard, and I think that they would be happy to entertain any further questions. I think that with that, I would like to thank you, and then the next item on the agenda is going to be updates from Tara about the NCC in general. Thank you all.
I think Paula's first.
My apologies. Yes, Paula is first.
Am I on? Is this thing on?
I should have looked into my Nagare slides. Yes, Paula.
You've had long days. Yes. Understandable.
Thank you.
Can you see just my screen, not my notes?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Making sure that I got it right. Okay, well, thank you for giving me a bit of time at this meeting to tell everyone a little bit about NCC's social media over the last 1.5 years, which is how long I've been on as the digital media manager. And there we go. When I proposed becoming NCC's digital media manager back in September of 2020, the executive director and the chair and I discussed and agreed upon a series of responsibilities for how the management of NCC's social media and webpage and news blog could be done effectively. But broadly speaking, despite these many kind of technical things that I've listed here, there's 3 core goals that underpin this. Which is to, make NCC more visible, to present NCC content in a polished, consistent, and professional way, and to build connections across the Japan Studies community. Because to be honest, I had never even heard of NCC until I was at Yale and I met Haruko Nakamura, who was chair of NCC at the time. And asking among my colleagues, they also were pretty clueless and didn't really know. And so this kind of struck me personally as a PR problem. And although many researchers and students are not very good at promoting themselves, the librarians and information specialists who often are already working behind the scenes are even more humble about what it is that they do. And that can be a problem because there is so much excellent work being done at organizations like NCC. So since I've been with NCC, I've developed a number of new initiatives to ensure that we can reach a broader audience and demonstrate the importance of the work being done here. To begin, I created a series of graphics to ensure that all of the public messaging was consistent. I made PowerPoint templates, which you see in use today, logos, banners, and solidified our color palette. And in creating a digital media manager drive, I've also been organizing and cataloging content in such a way that it can be easily passed on to someone else in the future. And this is something I've also been working on with Amy Ledbetter to do the same with the NCC archive of older materials from the last 3 decades. And all of this is still kind of a work in progress, but it will hopefully mean that it's much more sustainable. And as a part of my media management, I've also been generating a regular schedule of events and features so that we can be continually rolling out new content and promoting existing content every week. And just to show you a bit of the chaos behind the scenes, here you can see my scheduling overview for the year, where I lay out all of the different content that I develop as I go, and making sure that we have a good balance of diverse topics and information specialists represented. And I try to plan and draft these things really well ahead of time to ensure that any requests that are made can be considerate of others' schedules, especially. I know we are all busy. This is a view of my kind of day-to-day planning calendar, where it's also easy to identify kind of open slots for new content whenever we receive a request or we are hosting or collaborating with somebody on a new event. So there's kind of lots of different ways that I'm going through organizing what we do by both content and by schedule. And during our anniversary year, I developed a number of initiatives for our media to ensure that we could reach a broader audience and demonstrate the importance of what is being done and has been done for the last 3 decades. And these included our NCC testimonials and the Next Decade donation drive. In order to hear from people working with various NCC groups directly, I solicited reflections on work with NCC, both from newer and early career specialists, as well as from those who have been with us since the beginning. And this allowed for a really great, diverse group of perspectives and for past participants to share how NCC has influenced what they do throughout their careers. And to complement this, I sought out testimonials from faculty and students, something that would help us to demonstrate that NCC is not simply a librarian organization, but one that aims to build bridges to these different communities. For the Next Decade donation drive, I developed a strategic rollout calendar for December to ensure that we could keep drawing up interest and encouragement, as well as show our progress as we went along. And this included regular updating of graphics and social media pushes and tagging current and past funders to encourage them to also take part and to share our drive widely and see how active we were. Of course, our regular periodic content features have been by far the most popular on our social media. And this includes project showcases of the resources that NCC hosts and creates, individual showcases that highlight the accomplishments of NCC specialists outside of NCC, and Japanese studies spotlights, and most recently, our specialist spotlights. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the emails that I send you asking about your recent accomplishments. This could be a recent publication, a report, a project, a collaboration, an acquisition, anything. And here you see on the left a showcase from Keiko Yokota Carter's work on making hand scrolls accessible for screen readers, and a digital mapping project of the stations of the Tokaido by Anne-Marie Davis. And oftentimes the work that information specialists put into developing resources that reach often far beyond the local community end up only being advertised within that local university or college community. So being a part of NCC's social media is a great way to bring visibility to this work to a much wider audience. And when I showcase these features, I always make sure to tag home libraries, the collaborators, and the funders so that they too can share the materials and see public-facing impact in the work that's being done. On my scheduling page here, all of the yellow slots are open. So if you have something you want to share, by all means, please contact me, hint, hint. And Amy Ledbetter and I recently set up a spotlights page to highlight the special features that garner the most attention. In particular, this is our Japanese studies spotlights, which are monthly articles that focus on a single collection or resource and discuss how they bridge faculty, student, and library specialist expertise. And these have just really been like clickbait for it. It's been wonderful. Over 2021, we featured one article a month that included topics like early modern illustrated books, oral histories, medieval documents, contemporary prints, IIIF tools, and more. And just to give you a sense of how hosting these features makes an impact on our visibility, you can see that in our debut Spotlight article, it gave us a huge bump in our Twitter interactions with nearly 9,000 people seeing that single post and nearly 200 engaging with it. And this means liking, retweeting, visiting the link, etc. And in this January 2021 period, our Twitter content had over 50,000 impressions, which is the times that a tweet appeared in somebody's timeline and was likely seen. One thing that I was very cognizant of as I planned these spotlights is to ensure that we have diverse representation and are outward looking. So I decided that my first priority for these for 2021 would be seeking articles from people who are not yet involved in NCC so that we can maximize exposure and improve awareness of what we do and bring more people in to collaborate with us. And as of early March this year, we have already slotted about half of our 2022 spotlights. We already have 3 up, including Rebecca Corbett's piece on the Cassidy collection related to Alice in Wonderland, the Exploring Pre-Modern Japan video project at UBC, and the Innovative Spatial Mapping Project, Bodies and Structures by David Umbaras and Kate McDonald. We still have slots open for this year, so if you are interested or know somebody interested, please be in touch. We like to schedule these well ahead of time to give plenty of time for writing and editing. And finally, a new feature I'm putting together this year, which was begun in January, is short pieces every other month on the specialists themselves. This is to highlight the breadth of backgrounds that people have coming into East Asian Studies librarianship and to show how they work in and beyond their communities as well. So these brief articles can show potential future information specialists that there are many ways to get here and many types of work that people do. But looking at the big picture, our social media stats alone show that my goals to raise NCC's visibility have thankfully been very successful. While Facebook, which does not really lend itself to much broader networking, has only seen maybe 11 or 13% growth since I became the digital media manager, I've focused my efforts on Twitter, which is much more flexible as a public platform, and managed to grow our Twitter following by 965%. Our Twitter feed usually gets between 40,000 and 100,000 impressions per month, and our posts typically range between 1,500 and 9,000 impressions regularly. So I hope to continue to produce this content in service to NCC's mission. And I also hope that many of you will be a part of this by taking part in many of our social media features and being sure to share them with your friends and colleagues. Thanks very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Paula. It is quite astonishing because Paula has very, very detailed reports that she provides every month to the executive committee, and going through them, it's actually quite amazing to see the level of reach that she got through the digital media initiatives, and particularly with Twitter. And we often hear from people that, you know, Facebook is like the generation of my parents, so younger people don't really use it, but I guess I'm in that generation now. And I'm really, really grateful of all the work that you are doing, and it has had a very dramatic impact in the NCC's visibility in the community. So thank you very much. Any questions and comments for Paula before we move to Tara very quickly? We have thank you for all the great work, Paula. And I think that there is a lot of chatter regarding the submission for the other project, the dashboard. And I think that what we're going to do is maybe get a capture of all these, the chat, and then maybe organize the information in a way that people then can go later and then refer to them with some of the things that are discussed in the chat right now. All right, so without further ado, thank you again, Paula. And then I'm going to get Tara to give the NCC's updates.
Thank you, Fabiano. So I'm going to share screen. Let's see. So as many of you know, last year our open meeting was almost solely focused on restructuring issues. So this year, we definitely wanted to get to updates on all the great work that our committees, working groups, and task forces have been doing. Before I get to the updates, I just wanted to remind everybody, if you did not make it to any of our 30th anniversary events, they've all been archived on our website. If you go to the events page and the NCC 30th anniversary, I want to thank Haruko Nakamura, who really put so much of her energy last year into planning these wonderful events, and also everyone who came and contributed, and also, as Paula mentioned, thank you to all of you who contributed to our Next Decade donation drive. We really did even better than we expected, and that's all thanks to all of you. As Paula mentioned, and this has been mentioned several times in different ways, NCC would not be an organization without all the wonderful professional volunteers that we have, and we're always looking for new people. And as you'll see, many of the names repeat. And I wish I could thank each one personally in this presentation. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, I'll just show you the current members of the different groups. So the Comprehensive Digitization and Discoverability Program Task Force was started in 2018. Because as many of you know, the JUSFC, the Japan-US Friendship Commission, suspended the MBS volume sets project. I think somebody is not muted. So this task force developed the following objectives and wanted to have a grants program similar to MBS, because we had been asked to come up with a replacement. Unfortunately, we have yet to get the funding for a grants program, but these objectives are still very central to their mission. And particularly the last three were the focus of an application to the Toshiba International Foundation in 2020 to do an in-person summit at Stanford to promote national and international collaboration and build an international infrastructure for digitized Japan-related materials. Because of COVID, we had to go online with that. And as a result, instead of bringing experts together in person, the task force commissioned a series of videos from experts working with various digital tools. And so they put together this exciting CDDP video series. We have 15 videos currently, more coming. And as you can see across the top, each one has sort of a different focus for how you can interact with it. So I definitely recommend that you take a look. Also, as many of you know, thanks to the Toshiba International Foundation, they were allowed to repurpose some of the other funds for an NCC CDDP award program, and the recipients of the award were announced at the 30th anniversary reception. Dylan Siegel of Yale University and Rebecca Corbett, the University of Southern California. And we are showcasing their videos on the homepage of the NCC website, and they're also included now in the CDDP video series. You've already heard about the work of the Digital Resources Committee in terms of the dashboard. As you can see, all the current members will be transitioning out in June of 2022. So we want to thank them for their service, and we will be putting out a call for nominations for a new chair in April. So please think about someone you might nominate, or if you want to self-nominate, we welcome that as well. What the other aspect of DRC's work, of course, is vendor communication. That has always been central. So here are a few of the updates relating to that. Kinokuniya added Gaichiban overseas additions to its consortial plan for the Asahi Shimbun's Kikuzo database and increased the subscription price. without consultation with consortium members. So co-chair, the RCO co-chair, Ayako Yoshimura, communicated to Kinokuniya that more advance notice was needed when a change to the subscription model is to occur. And Keiko Yokota Carter, I think, made it known that the Japan Publications Trading Company, JPT, still offers an option without Gaichiban. So switching vendors is another solution. The Daikanwa Jiten was added to Japan Knowledge as a subscription-based title. Ayako communicated again to Kinokuniya that many librarians prefer one-time purchase content to subscription-based content. Kinokuniya will communicate our concerns and preferences to Net Advance and to publishers working to add new content to Japan Knowledge. Kinokuniya recently created a new website for Japanese studies bibliographers in North America to consolidate information on new publications, and the URL will be shared in 2022. And Ayako reviewed the website and offered feedback at Kinokuniya's request. Our other committee, the formerly ILLD committee, as Fabiano mentioned, is now called the Resource Sharing Committee. As you can see with this committee as well, the current membership is shifting as Tsuyoshi Harada takes over the chair role. We want to thank everybody who's been involved with this very important committee as well. The focus of the ILLD committee over the past 2 years has been working with NDL, their digitized content transmission service, DCT, because there are various ways that it has been not so easy for users outside of Japan to use the service. So a lot of their advocacy has been focused on that. They particularly wanted to thank Professor Shoji Yamada, our NCC Japan liaison, who has just worked tirelessly to help them with this advocacy. And part of the reason for changing the name to Resource Sharing Committee comes out of the fact that with so much work with the DCT service, there's been a lot less of a focus on interlibrary loan or document delivery. So there was some fear that there would be confusion about the work that they do, but they wanted to make sure to reassure everyone that the making interlibrary loan and or documentary delivery service available to users in North America is still one of their commitments. So with the DCT service that's provided by NDL, there are various issues, and so these are some of the ones that they're advocating to change or improve. The service becomes available to individuals in Japan starting in May 2022, but it has been suspended to users overseas. For the institutional contract, the main problem is the legal issues on the contract form. There are 2 libraries in North America that have obtained the access to the service, but it's limited to viewing only for them at the moment. Downloading and printing functions, which are available in Japan, are not yet available for overseas users. The second aspect of the NDL service, the Enkaku Fukusha service, is a remote copy service of photocopied or scanned materials from NDL overseas. And the issue for the Enkaku Fukusha service is that it takes time to obtain copies from Japan through airmail. And obviously, it's been even more difficult during the pandemic. So it would be ideal to get copies in PDF files. Now to turn to our working groups, the Cooperative Collections Development Working Group, as was mentioned earlier, has been working with DRC on the dashboard. So these are some of their updates. Tokiko Basel, as many of you know, retired in December from the University of Hawaii at Manoa Library, and so has resigned from the group as of December. Kevin McDowell has been working on the notable Japanese collections and continues in this role. So he has been working with the dashboard. Oops, sorry. And also they've been working somewhat with the CDDP video series because some of the submissions for the awards program were excellent, but seemed more in line with the Cooperative Collection Development Working Group mission. So they may also consider starting a video series. Other activities, resurvey the specific monograph collection, complete a survey of local history collections and white paper holdings, complete a list of newspapers and shikusatsuban, including Japanese local newspapers and Japanese American newspaper holdings in North America, identifying the core academic journals in Japanese studies. And this last one, archiving the CCDWD related documents in Google Drive, is something that actually all the working groups and committees are working on, so that we have all of our papers archived in one place. And so transference to different members becomes easier. And also I've been working with Amy Ledbetter, NCC, an intern, to archive all of the files. So as Paula pointed out, we're trying to come up with a consistent standard for that archiving process. The Outreach Working Group is our most recently formed working group. Here are the current members. And because it's so new, I'll read out their mission: is to support faculty, researchers, and independent scholars of Japan, particularly those who are affiliated with small institutions or otherwise without access to comprehensive Japanese library resources. We work to facilitate connections between these researchers and needed resources with partners in North America and Japan. So they have been working also on a video series as a way to instruct people about resources. Toshinori Egami will include his Nichibunken guide video on their LibGuide. And he's also created a page in the LibGuide for Nichibunken where the video will be hosted. Kana Jenkins has been working with Amy Ledbetter and myself to standardize video categorization. NCC has created lots of videos over the years, and now we have enough to really create different video series and come up with tagging systems for better searchability, etc. And to make NDL content and services more visible, Kuniko McVeigh started the NDL resources page on the LibGuide. Tsuyoshi has also done an NDL online registration video to instruct people on how to register for NDL. And as if you were part of the last series of presentations on Japanese materials, Tsuyoshi Harada has also worked with the Plains to Pacific Alliance PPA on their Japan Knowledge Workshop, which is also being hosted on the OWG LibGuide. And Kana Jenkins is also working on a grants video, so that you can look forward to that. This is what their LibGuide currently looks like on the NCC website. For image use protocol working group, here are the current members. They're working now on best practices for using moving images. They've already met to begin to work on this and started a compilation of resources related to the use of moving images. They will engage professors Joanne Bernardi and Jolion Thomas for preliminary consultation. If you have an opportunity and haven't yet heard Professor Thomas's presentation for the 30th anniversary, I definitely recommend that. And he mentions moving images there as well. And they plan to draft a survey to find out from scholars what are the most common types of use of images in research and teaching that require permission. They're also working on a previous suggestion, I believe from Sharon Domeyer, to create request templates for the use of images specifically in theses and dissertations. And as you can see, with Fabiano assuming responsibilities as NCC chair, we would really need to also look for a new chair for IUP. So if you're interested in that, please contact him. The Librarian Professional Development Working Group members have already been mentioned. And the good news with this is we had planned all the aspects of a next generation Japanese studies librarian workshop for the March 2020 AAS CEAL conference that was canceled because of COVID. And they were not able to offer the workshops in 21 or 22. But when we did the events, 30th anniversary events, we had a panel that was actually Fabiano was the moderator for celebrating past achievements and establishing a path forward, where new librarians expressed a clear need for professional development for those who entered the workforce recently. And so we are excited to announce that we have received funding from the Toshiba International Foundation to do a next generation Japanese studies librarian workshop in March 2023 as a CEAL pre-conference workshop in Boston. The contents of the workshop will be developed in consultation with the librarians in the panel and other next generation librarian colleagues. And we also will have support for local arrangements from the Harvard Yenching Library. Of course, we will have to think about alternatives just in case, yet again, in 2023, we can't meet in person, but we very much hope that we will be able to. The Japan Art Catalog Project, Reiko Yoshimura sent in these updates. So the project is ongoing, but because of COVID since March 2020, the materials have not been processed. And finally, the Multimedia History Project. I'm delighted to say that Tokiko Basil has agreed to stay on this committee with us in spite of her retirement, and she has already contributed greatly to this project. I just want to mention two of our recent interviews. My predecessor, Victoria Lyon-Bester, interviewed Dr. Christina Troost, who recently retired from Duke University. This is also a wonderful interview between Gina Gooseby, who is a recent Swarthmore graduate, fluent in Japanese and prospective future Japanese studies librarian, interviewing Tokiko Basil before her retirement last year. So I want to thank the Japan-US Friendship Commission and the Toshiba International Foundation for all their support for all the amazing work that everyone is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara, for all the updates. Before I move into the last acknowledgements and concluding remarks, there was one question from Chiaki on the chat, and probably you can quickly respond to that. And she was wondering if the problem with the link to the donation button was fixed.
Yes, that
yes.
has been fixed. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you very much. And as I said, if there are other questions and comments, we're going to address them at a later date, but I don't want to keep everybody too soon, too long after this. So I'm just going to move on the last acknowledgements and concluding remarks so that we can wrap up today. So obviously we are very grateful for the Japan-US Friendship Commission for their ongoing support, despite of the understanding that they would like us to become self-sufficient, but they're still the main funder for us. And the Toshiba International Foundation has always been very generous with our initiatives, and they are again going to be funding us for the Library and Professional Development Working Group. And we hope to engage as many next generation librarians to understand what the needs are for the contents of the program. And hopefully we can all see each other in Boston in March 2023. We also want to recognize individual contributions like Izumi Koide, who has given us a generous donation in the name of her late husband, Yasue-san, and all the contributions that came to the donation drive. And next slide, please. Finally, Professor Shoji Yamada, like Tara had already mentioned, he was a great advocate in the past few years as the faculty liaison, and he's going to be rotating out in June 2022. And also our heartfelt thanks for the co-chairs of the Digital Resources Committee, Ayako and Yukari, They have been doing fantastic work on those. And it's worth noting, and Tara has already mentioned, that the entire, I guess, membership of the DRC is going to change. So we're asking for people who are interested in digital resources in general to put their name forwards and volunteer to this very important committee. We would like to have people both to chair the committee as well as members to serve on it. And then thanks to Haruko Nakamura, who did a lot of work in the past few years as the NCC chair, Setsuko Noguchi, outgoing resource sharing committee, former ILLD chair, and then of course the long-term serving members of the Library and Professional Development Working Group, Shirin Eshiki Furuzawa, Adam Lisbon, and Inja. And like I said, there are opportunities for further community involvement, so we would like to hear from you. And the call for nominations is going to soon to be announced. With that, I think that I'm going to conclude here because I am very, very cognizant of the fact that I'm the only thing that it's preventing you from getting to your families, your dinners, or for those of you who are in Hawaii, to the beach. So I hope this was informative. If you have any questions, please send them by email. We're welcome to entertain your questions, and we'll try to do our best to answer them to your satisfaction. If there are any final comments or remarks and questions, I guess we can stay 1 extra minute. I hear nothing. So, so thank you very much. Oyasumi nasai, and I will see you tomorrow for the last day of CEAL.